It's savoury, it's sweet, and it's packed full of umami and natural MSG. And I'm not talking about Uncle Roger. This is prawn mee. Prawn mee is a dish found all across Singapore, but I've got a little twist on my version. So I'm going to show you how to make the broth from scratch, all the toppings, and put it together to create my very special version. So with any good noodle soup dish, you've got to have an epic broth. The base is everything. So with the prawn mee noodle soup, it's actually not all about the prawn itself, but the heads and the shells and the bodies, because that's going to pack the body, the noodle soup body, with full of umami. So I've got some minced garlic. I'm just going to sweat that in my stock pot. And what we're going to do is render out all that flavour from the prawn shells and heads, and then we're going to make a broth. So I love the flavour of pork and prawn together, and that's what makes my version of this dish so unique. I love having this with the pork ribs and even pork trotters. It was totally inspired by in Old Airport Road, where they had an option to choose one with pig's trotters or one with pork ribs or one with just absolutely massive prawns. But I thought, why not combine all of it together to make one epic prawn dish? So I'm sweating the garlic now. Surprisingly transfers heat very fast in that pot. And then the prawns are going in. And you're going to see those prawn shells just turn into this deep orange hue to let you know they're cooking. And it smells so good in here already. So as mentioned before, I have some pork trotters and pork ribs, and I blanched that really quickly in some hot boiling water to remove any impurities and scum off the top, and then give them a good rinse, and then boiled them with a little bit of soy sauce to create what I would call collagen-rich pork stock. Now, this is going to be the base of the stock that I'm going to add to the prawn heads here. You see that they've all changed this lovely golden orange colour. I'm just going to give that a few more minutes, and then I'm going to add in the pork stock. I have some chili paste that you can just get from the supermarket, and I'm going to add that in because I want a little bit of heat, I want a little bit of colour. It's totally optional. Right, you see how that is a lovely colour now, and I can smell all that garlic, that chili. I think it's ready for the pork stock. Details on how to make the prawn. Oh, it's just cracked. All right, well, we need to pause the video. Something interesting's happened. My pot has cracked. I have never had this happen before since we've got this pot, and I'm absolutely baffled. It wasn't that hot, and it just decided to crack. Luckily, it doesn't look like anything has gone into the dish itself, so I still feel like we can keep rolling on. So I transferred it to my trusty Hexclad. The show must go on. So all the details for this recipe will be found on my website, auntielizcooks.com. It's just a free sign up. I'm really sad about my pot. You know what's going to cheer me up though? Is having this delicious bowl of noodles. So I'm going to add in this. These are cooked. When I made the pork stock, these are like cooked just so it's falling off the bone. So I'm going to add that to the prawn stock when it's finished cooking. And prawn stock actually doesn't take as long as you think. It probably only take about 30 minutes because there's only so much that you can extract from a seafood stock or a shellfish stock. The key ingredient obviously will be prawns. But for me, I'm going to be using a little bit of pork loin. So we've got a whole pork tenderloin. We won't need all of it because maybe for a big family, but we're only going to use a little bit of this because I'm only making a couple of portions. And I'm just going to slice it really thin. My mum loves using this. She would always have this in the fridge because it's such a versatile meat that will go with anything. So I'm just going to slice it, and then we're going to blanch it in the prawn and pork stock. And we're going to use that as the garnish. You can use pork belly, you can use any part of the pork if you're using pork. The stock's come to a rolling boil, so I'm just going to give it a good skim. I'm just going to take off some of that foam off the top. Right, you can see that the stock's turning a nice orange hue, dark brown. And I've got some pork fat. We're gonna make some pork little crackling to go on the top. This is like one of my favorite bits of this dish. And I always feel like in restaurants, they skimp out on it because you obviously got to render down the pork fat and then you only end up with a little bit of the crackling, or the croutons I used to call them. But I'm just gonna render that down on a really low heat until it's super crispy. So this has been rendering down for like the past 10 minutes. I'm not had it on too high heat, like a medium heat. And you see you've got these little golden nuggets. Now this is what we're looking for, a nice even coloring on the croutons. Strain them onto some paper towel. So I'm just gonna leave that there to cool down completely. Then I'm gonna put that into a clean sealed container and pop that in the fridge and save that for later, because I actually love cooking with rendered pork fat. You might think it's really unhealthy, but I think it's a much more natural way of cooking. It's got a really high burning temperature, so you can stir fry in it really, really high, and it's just got a nice mouthfeel to it. So a bit of yum yum seasoning on my croutons before they get too cooled down. Oh, one's on the loose. And that is going to be one of the garnishes for the prawn noodles. And I have to use every ounce of my willpower not to eat them straight away. I'm just gonna taste this prawn stock because I can see it's got a nice color on it. And don't be afraid to taste your food. That needs more, ooh, spicy, ooh. It needs more salt.
How's your week been?
It's been good. Busy. Had an interesting meeting or two that'll push the needle, definitely for sure. And we did recipe testing at Hae Mee. I wanted to do like a bucket of fried chicken, but not just any fried chicken, like the Hae Mee fried chicken and some ayam goreng barempa that we did with our nasi lemak video. It was just great. Like, it was just so flavorful. The obvious choice to put it with the fried chicken was like a sambal with it, like Hae Mee sambal. But I was like, let's take it one step further because it's Hae Mee. So I was like, let's make our own mayonnaise, sambal mayonnaise, but make it really limey, so it like cuts through all that richness and the herbs of the fried like chicken. I'm not gonna break another pan, are we? There we go. I think the stock's ready, so. Next up, we're gonna blanch the bean sprouts, greens, and noodles. Bean sprouts, 2 seconds. In and straight out. Normally I'd use kangkong or water spinach, but I've just got some choy sum, quickly blanched. Done. That's gonna go in some ice water. Blanched noodles. So these are fresh egg noodles, so they will only take like 30 seconds. Just gonna put the noodles at the bottom there. I'd say that this prawn stock is ready to strain, so I'm just going to carefully strain out the shells. When you're straining it, don't do what one of my chefs did in one of my previous restaurants where they just strained it straight down the sink and you've just lost all that work. Make sure you strain it into another bowl or pot. Now with all the heads and all the leftover bits, don't throw it away. Like, I'm going to dehydrate those in my oven at a really low temperature or even in my air fryer, and I'm gonna make like an umami powder out of that, and that's just gonna be like a garnish for another dish. I'm thinking Hokkien Mee. So I'm not gonna use all of this, but I'm just gonna add in as much of I want. So I'm gonna add in some of the pork ribs and trotters into my noodle soup and let those heat up. I'm also going to blanch some of my deveined prawns, but I'm gonna use a strainer, and these will take like 30 seconds to cook. So you just want them to change that lovely pink color, and then they'll be done. And they're done. Just give them a quick squeeze. Put them aside, so the residual heat will just finish those off. Now I'm just going to quickly blanch the pork in the stock as well. Because I cut it so thin, it's going to take like 30 seconds. Right, that's done. I'm going to check on my bony bits. Yeah, they're ready. Excellent. So I'll pop this all on my little garnish tray. Oh, I'm so excited. So you can actually do all of this garnish like up her head. And so it's just putting it together is really, really simple. So in we go. Noodles. I'm gonna go pork rib. Bit of the trotter. The idea of plating this is that you see a little bit of everything. Now, if this was a traditional prawn mee, I would also have some slices of fish cake in there. Unfortunately, in my mum's freezer, all I could find when I was doing my rummage was some fish cakes that expired in 2019. Thanks, Mum. Now the stock's gonna go in next. Next up, the bean sprouts, the blanched ones. Of course, my crispy crackling. And some crispy shallots. These are just short bought, but you can make your own. Really, really simple. No noodle dish is complete without crispy shallots on top. And this is a prawn mee, but my version of a prawn mee where it has the epic combination of prawn and pork involved. You've got a little bit of everything that I love, the pork trotters, the pork ribs, the prawns, and of course that umami rich broth. It's going to pack, I know that's going to have so much flavour in it. I can't wait to dig in. Oh, that's all done. That took about 45 minutes in total. I am absolutely knackered because I've only had 2.5 hours sleep last night thanks to my toddler. So this is a very welcome treat today. Now the noodles have soaked up all that broth because we've been taking pictures. Because everything lives on the ground, right? I love that kick of chili and heat and spice from the chili paste that we use at the bottom. And those prawns are meltingly soft. So we only blanched them for about literally 30 seconds. And pork trotters is such a treat because rarely find it in restaurants because it's not very, very popular here in UK. But in Singapore, it's really, really, really prized. So you've got pork rib. Just sucks right off the bone. So some versions of prawn mee, you might get a hard-boiled egg in there. You'd have, of course, fish cakes, but I was missing those. You probably have, sometimes you get a little spoon of sambal in there. It's totally up to you and your preference. So I recommend give it a go. Add as much or as little, or completely fill your bowl with lots of toppings. That's the best bit about cooking at home. It's very easy to go, oh, I can get that for $6, $7 in the hawkers. But these days I'm finding you're getting less and less toppings and fillings within the dish, and it just kind of sometimes can be quite underwhelming. Whereas when you make it at home from scratch with lots of love, and you're using up all the things like the prawn shell and head, so there's minimal waste in this kitchen and full of flavour. I tell you, this is easily one of my favourite noodle soup dishes. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.